morning, and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is, what if we loved it all? The entirety of the human experience. I think it is likely to be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine clean, crisp light, brilliant bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So as the world gets crazier, many of us have a challenge regulating and functioning even. And tools that can assist us in that endeavor become that much more precious. And we have those tools, those capabilities within us through shifting our being. So I was speaking with someone who I dearly love in my life, who was talking about being constantly afraid. And there's so many people living in fear right now. For this person, the current circumstances serve to exacerbate the foundational fear that was there persistently. And I think is there for so many of us, regardless of circumstance. I think it's important to remember that there have always been absolutely horrible, intolerable things going on in the world. And there have always been magnificently beautiful, heartwarming, expansive, transformative things going on in the world. And it's a matter, in many ways, it's a matter of focus. It's a matter of how we allow ourselves to interact with these circumstances. And there's no reasonable. Good morning, Shosha. Welcome. So good. So good to have you joining us this morning. There's no real reasonable way to contend with the circumstances that we're being faced with. And so we get, good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So great to have you here. We get to step into another dimension, because it truly feels like we're in a world gone mad in so many ways. And a way that we can be in the world and not of the world. In other words, to not be made crazy by the crazy around us, is by creating a shift of being. And then our actions, our doing, will move from that new sense of being. And so the other day I was meditating, and what came to me, just came out of nowhere, is what if we just loved it? I can't even say it without a welling up of emotions. What if we just loved it all? We're here in a human experience. And if we can acknowledge that we are spirit having a human experience, or we are consciousness having a human experience. And I know that's probably a stretch for a lot of folks, and I invite you to try it on. But if we are intelligence, consciousness, having a human experience, then all of it, all of that experience is something to embrace. The agony and the ecstasy. That we can find a place of beingness that allows us to recognize that we're having this experience. We are not the experience itself. We are having the experience. And the we that we are transcends the experience. So this is not dissimilar from the conversation about boundaries that we had, where we create a structure and then the structure becomes the reality. And if we can imagine that we're consciousness manifest in this physical reality, this physical dimension, then the physical dimension became the reality rather than the coming into that experience. So the me, or the you that was manifesting in this physical form, forgot that it was here to have an experience. And I get that this can sound kind of woo-woo, but if we step back, it's becoming more and more real to me anyway, in my understanding, in my experience, in my awareness. And we can bolster that knowledge and that understanding if we do things like meditate or have medicine journeys. We recognize that there's another dimension of awareness, of beingness, that we have access to, that feels more true than this passion play here. And what if we could appreciate the passion play for what it is? The highs, the lows, the passions, the sensations, what if we could recognize it as an experience rather than as the ultimate reality? I think it gives us perspective to do that. It allows us to recognize the crazy, like to almost appreciate the theater of the absurd kind of thing, and to not be so much at the effect of it. And I invite you to just take a minute to sit into this notion of what if we loved it all? Just allow yourself to feel that. It doesn't mean condoning, it doesn't mean condemning. It means being present to the vast number of expressions of life. You know, a tragedy is a tragedy when it's happening to us, right? I mean, there have been all kinds of cruelties and abominations in other parts of the world that we're just not connected to. And there have been all kinds of beauties and generosities and magnificent expressions of life. And if we try on the notion that who we are is life expressing itself, all of it is life's expression. And if it really truly sitting into, just try it, even if it sounds crazy, to ask yourself, what if we loved it all? It just wells up in me. I don't know if you have a similar experience, but it takes me to a different place of being. And I hope it can do that for you. Like, what if we loved it all? How might we engage? What might happen to our judgments? Our judgments of ourselves and of others might start falling away in a way that allows for new connection. In so many ways, we're sorting machines. You know, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is making all these dichotomy, polarity kinds of distinctions. Welcome, welcome, Brandy. So good to have you with us. And Shosha says, so useful as I'm just starting a legal process. So what if I loved it all without attachment to the outcome? Thank you, Shosha. And I wish you that kind of balance and coherence and peace as you move into this process. You know, is just taking the necessary steps. Loving it all doesn't mean not acting. We get to act, but the action that we take is action that we're called into. It's not coming from reactivity. What happens when we consider what if we loved it all is that our resistance just sort of melts and our heart can open and we take the action that we need to take. I had a dispute with someone, and I took the action I needed to take without rage, without vengeance, without anger without attachment. I just took the steps that I needed to take. And it resolved itself with tremendous speed. Like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't even have a conviction that it would get resolved, but I knew the action I needed to take. And I think we are so indoctrinated to this sorting, this polarity, good, bad, right, wrong, etc., that the only way we get beyond this, personally, culturally, globally, is to adopt a different, is to relate to it from a different dimension, literally. I believe it was Einstein who said you can't solve a problem from the level in which it emerged. Have to kind of go up a level, because new possibilities arise when we're not in the middle of it. Years and years ago, I read a book called Flatland, and it was a world of, it was a I guess, do we call it 1D or 2D? I'm not even sure, but it was geometric forms, but they were on a piece of paper essentially, and they interacted with each other from that dimension. And so a circle, when it was coming at you, a circle would look like a line, but it would contact you when the edge of the circle first arrived. So that's kind of weird, right? You're seeing this line, but before the line gets to you, it's making contact. You know, you'd see a triangle. Triangle would also look like a line, right? But it's what we're talking about is perception. And when we're in the midst of it, when we're in the passion play of it, our perception is very limited. And so what we get to do is to go to a higher level. And when we go to a higher level, what happens is that our perception shifts. And this notion of what if we loved it all rockets us into that other level with a heart opening. At least that's what I'm experiencing. Tell me if that's what you experience as you sit into what if we loved it all. There's a power in asking questions. The quality of the questions that we ask determines our experience. So when we ask questions that are constricting or constraining, like what's wrong with me, we're going to get answers. When we ask questions like, what if I loved it all? What if I could love it all? What would it feel like if I loved it all? Your body and being wants to respond to that question to allow you to sense into the experience of loving it all. And it means knowing and allowing for all of it, for the crazy, for the pain, for the pleasure, for the conflict for the peace. And from that vantage point, we have a different understanding and we cultivate a very different relationship to the experience that we have here as humans. And again, it allows us to self-regulate. It allows us to breathe. And maybe to make different choices. And maybe to be that golden lattice of light that is fluid and alive rather than boundaried and fortressed and contained, because we're called to be more. We're called to be more. These times are calling us into another level of being, another level of awakening, another level of expressing, if for nothing more than survival's sake, right? But the beauty is that it moves us way beyond survival into an expansiveness, into a capacity for greater connection. Brandy says, you answered the question I was just typing in. Thank you. What was the question, Brandy? That it might help to clarify things for other people. Thank you for saying that. It would be great if you share the question. So this is a biggie. It's a biggie because it doesn't make any sense, right? I admit it makes no sense. Like, how could you love it? But if we allow that what we're loving is the vastness of the human experience. Brandy said, how do I start myself off loving everything? Yeah, right. Like, how could you do that when there's so much that's not okay? But if we can step into that, we're here to have an experience, and it gives us this vast range of experience. It's kind of like some people really like going to horror movies or riding on roller coasters that scare the hell out of them, right? It's all part of an experience. And that allows us, if we can love it all, it allows us to be more connected. And when we're more connected, there are opportunities that don't otherwise arise. When we're present, we can see things differently. We can see it's like going from flatland to seeing beyond that, right? Where even in 2D, if those are 3D objects, if you're seeing them in 2D, it's conflicted. It's like being in a cave. I didn't make this one up. I forget who it is that talked about it, but being in a cave and only seeing the shadows that are cast on the walls of the cave and believing that that's what reality is, and never getting to see what it is that's casting those shadows. So by coming to this next level, by allowing ourselves to deepen into what if we loved it all, it puts us on this next level to where we're able to see the things, whatever it is that's casting the shadows. And it brings us closer to the truth, whatever that is. it brings us closer to presence. And maybe that's what our essence is. Maybe our essence is that consciousness that is expansive, that is all inclusive, that is actually unified, or that actually is one. So I had a great experience with a client where they went through a process and experienced that there was no conflict at all between being individuated and being all of it together, being unity and being one, like individuated. And I think that's where we get to be moving into, is being our connected individuation. So big stuff, right? Big stuff. But an entree to this is that question is, what would it feel like if I loved it all? What would it feel like to love everything, to love it all, of this, the entirety of this experience? Every time I sit into it, it brings tears. So there's so much depth available there. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it is truly a privilege and a pleasure to have the opportunity to share these morning musings on what it is to be human. So